In this series of conversations, we meet Liv Larsson, mediator, author, and longtime teacher of nonviolent communication. For over 2 decades, Liv has worked at the intersection of conflict, empathy, and transformation, helping people navigate some of life's most difficult conversations. But this is not just about technique. It's about what happens inside us when we choose to stay present. When we meet resistance with curiosity or anger with listening, together we explore how conflict can become a space for growth rather than avoidance, and what it really means to hold space for others without losing touch with ourselves. Liv shares stories from the field, reflections on power, and the inner practices that help her return to empathy, even when it's hard. Whether you're familiar with nonviolent communication or simply wondering how to engage more honestly and bravely in moments of tension, this series of episodes offers thoughtful and grounded invitations into a deeper kind of being. Let's begin.
Today, our conversation is going to be on the topic of lies. Because you live in your book Unmasking Shame, one of the longest chapters is about lies. And I guess listeners have similar kind of experiences of the topic. Like I have a lot of bad memories, either people lying to me or as a kid, having difficult situations, doing bad things and admitting those. So I think this is going to be an interesting thing. But before we kind of just assume that we know what a lie is, let's start with that question. What is a lie, Liv?
Well, according to the Swedish Academy Dictionary, lying means deliberately telling an untruth, usually to gain an advantage. So that is very often like how it's described. But when we dive into it, we can see that lying has so many more sides to it than just simply telling an untruth because it gains me. It's a gain for me.
Yeah, I'm assuming that we can lie for other reasons as well. We can protect ourselves from bad things or other things.
We can protect others from bad things as well. That is also one of the reasons why we would lie, to kind of to take away some of the pain we might think that the truth will give to a person, maybe overwhelming truth at the moment.
But already now, the idea of lying is bad and being honest is good. That kind of black and white, very strong contrast lightens up a little bit. It's like there's a lot of gray areas around lying.
Yeah.
But so what did you write so much about this? Like, what's your interest in this topic of lying? Like,
Well, interests, I would say, are many, and I became especially interested in it through going through to seeing, one of my topics is really shame, and I could see that shame has a lot to do with lying. We don't want to admit to something because we know the moment we tell the truth, there will be shame there. So we try to circle around the truth in order not to face the shame. And for some time, I thought, so that's the reason why we are lying. We want to avoid shame. But then when I looked at research, and there has been lots of different kind of research on shame, I saw that there's so much depth to it, and that many times we get stuck at the thought of truth is always good. It's a sign of a flawed human being if they are lying, like our child. If we notice our child is lying, there must be something wrong with them or with us as parents. And so I became really interested in the different parts of where shame was like the door into it.
What did you learn then? Like, what conclusions and what can you tell us?
Well, quite a lot. Well, one of the beautiful things of it was that uh, it's actually, if we look at a child when they grow up and the moment we first catch them with a lie, it's a moment to celebrate because it's a moment where they have developed something, they have matured into another phase of their lives. So instead of just panicking and thinking, I have created a morally uh, not appropriate child, we can say, this child is developing something, is on their way to something new.
But hold on a bit here. So people who listen to this, they might think that you're saying that when their kids, when they catch their kids lying, that they should celebrate. But why? Like, what do you mean they are developing? Like, you need to tell more. Otherwise, it sounds kind of awkward or backwards.
Yes, it does. Because, of course, I believe that truth, telling how it is many, many times, is really supportive. And there are moments, like in a child's life, where they learn that if I say this other person, like my mom, she will not understand that I'm lying. And it's a sign that this child is starting to take in other people's perspectives. They are starting to see the world out of the other person's eyes, which is a good thing. And they start to make up their alternative world, which is something we many times ask of kids in school, like create a new story of something, which is kind of a lie. It's a creativity. It's a making up of something that it's not truth, and it's also not a moral lie, but it certainly is not the truth. And that is a sign that the child has, can do things that they couldn't do when they were maybe 1.5.
So are you saying, like, if my child comes, if I after school or kindergarten, and I ask, so have you done your homework when they're home, and they say yes, I've done. Well, so but maybe they haven't, but they kind of understand that if they say yes, then I will be happy, and maybe they can play the computer game. So it's like it's for their own gain, so to say. Is that like because they
Yeah.
understand how to game the parent?
Yes.
And that
Exactly.
is a good thing because life is, they understand more about how I function, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is one
And
reason to celebrate, you mean?
yeah, a smaller child will try to lie, and maybe they've eaten the last piece of chocolate and they have chocolate all over the face, and you ask them, "Did you eat the chocolate?" And they say, "No, no." And it's clear to you that they are lying, but they don't know that. Not even if you put them in front of the mirror, they will understand how you can possibly know that that they took the last chocolate or they took the chocolate, because they cannot take your perspective. They cannot see what you see.
They can't connect the dots between
Yeah.
lying or saying, yeah, no, I didn't eat the chocolate, and then having chocolate around the mouth.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one day they will, and
One day
they
they will.
they will look in the mirror before they say, no, I didn't take it.
Yes.
So
Or run off to the bathroom and wash before you come home.
so is that kind of what to celebrate, those changes in, like, because that is part of growing up, and to
It's
kind
part
of
of growing up, and this podcast is focusing a lot on nonviolent communication, on empathy, on human connection, and this is like the first basic ways where how empathy can grow in us, that we start to see what the other person experiences, We can
Mm.
we can imagine that. We can use our brain to imagine what you see.
Hmm.
And you know this experiment with a ball that has two colors, and if it has yellow and blue, and if I turn it around and you see the blue and ask you what color do I see, you still think at some age that I see the blue the same as you. But at a certain age, when rolling the ball, the child will realize you are looking at the yellow side of the ball and they are looking at the blue. But that doesn't come until they have starting to stretch and take in that the world can be seen from different perspectives.
We're not born with seeing all perspectives. That's something
No.
we learn during our lifetime.
Which is a good thing because it would be overwhelming for the young nervous system. It's like a child needs to mature. That's how we are, human beings are. We are not born with a fully developed system to do that. So we develop way after we are born as well.
But what about that? I don't know if it's lying, but it's like when kids tell stories or fantasies, or like, oh, there's a ghost under my bed, and
Mm-hmm.
I know, no, there's not a ghost under my bed. So how should I relate to that? Like, if the kid can't differentiate between like reality or shared reality and then their fantasies, or these
Yeah.
these friends they have, the imaginary friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And uh, i-
It,
when you say that, I come to remember a story from some friends of ours who had a son who was going with his father to some gymnastic training, and this boy was so scared he didn't want to do any of the stuff that the others were doing, swinging from the roof and standing on their heads and so on. But he was watching intensely from the side, and the father
uh-huh.
tried to get him to do this, but he didn't. He was like, no, no, I'm not going to do it. And then they come home to the mother, and the child is just telling all the stuff that he's been doing, and he's been standing on his head, and he's been doing cartwheels, and he's been really engaged. And the father kind of looks at him. He knows he's making it up in the sense of that he certainly hasn't been doing that when it comes to his body, but the child has an experience of this. And of course, we don't want to buy into that kind of lying. But first of all, if you want your child to trust you later on in life, first of all, you want to be attentively interested in their story. You want to build trust in that you're listening to them, that you're taking part of their experience. And then you can name that, but weren't you sitting on the side like most of the time? And but I guess you still had the experience of standing on your head. So so there is that, instead of judging the child and saying you are lying, you didn't have that experience, and kind of closing a door for us to connect around an experience that will create different kind of relationships.
So are, like, if the child don't know how to differentiate, if they still can't differentiate between what they imagined that they did or the story that they told, and then what actually happened, um is it really like meaningful to kind of correct them, but just to kind of enjoy them? Like, now of course depends, if they're 28 years old, it might be good to correct them so they will function in the world. But if they're like 3-year old or
Mhm.
so what do you say about that?
Well, I think we can still correct kids, but maybe not in the way correct sounds like harsh. And of course, you point that out. If they're 28, it's different. But to kind of to to talk about, I saw you sitting on the side. I can name that, and not being judgmental, but kind of being curious about it and see if that opens a door for the child to actually tell, yeah, I was experiencing it, but really I was not standing on my head. So
Uh,
correcting can be, just talking about it, naming it, and maybe talking about what it means to tell the truth. Not connected to a certain situation, but talking about it.
yeah, because we also want to, now it's a lot of focus on kids, but at least I would want to support my kids to grow up and have like integrity and self-respect and that would in my world that also means being able to be honest even though it's difficult.
Hmm.
Like I have memories from when I was a kid when I lied, and those memories kind of taste bad.
Hmm. Yeah.
It like it feels good to kind of be honest, or at least when I mess up to repair it. So how do we relate to, how do we kind of hold this? Okay, we understand that lying or developing creativity or how we want to name it, that is important, and it's also important to kind of function together with other people
Yeah.
to be trustworthy and be able to tell the truth. So do you have some learnings about that middle way kind of?
Well, I first want to comment on when you say that integrity was kind of has a place, and there has been research done with that focus, and it's very clear that there is some there are some signs so that we are really that integrity tastes good for us, that kind of keeping to the truth as close to our experience as possible calms our nervous system down, makes us feel like more relaxed. But that also then depends on how the person we meet that would tell the truth to, how they treat us. If whenever I tell the truth, I'm going to get punished for what happened, then even if my parents says the most important thing is that you tell the truth, and if you don't tell the truth, you're punished. Of course, you learn that no, the truth is not the most important thing. Uh, Trying to
Self-preference, like to protect oneself, becomes more
yeah,
important, I guess.
yes. So then integrity, I would say, doesn't isn't given that much space, isn't nurtured in that way. So so it's a dilemma because
So,
of course, yes,
so
please.
you're saying that growing up and becoming, learning how to navigate the truth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in a context with parents and other people around. So how we're treated, not what we're being told only, but how we're also being treated when we lie or when we speak the truth. Um, that also like kind of influences this kind of learning journey.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a gradual thing, and it's something we grow into.
So I have this memory. My mom, she would say things like, "Well, um, don't tell dad," and then she would, give me some money, or then she would do something or say something, but don't tell dad.
Mm.
And so, in one way, that became like a secret between us.
Mm-hmm.
That was one kind of exciting, nice thing. But it
Mm-hmm.
it was also like she was showing me that it's okay to lie, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think she's the only one that has taught her child, even if that was not the intention to actually lie. But that's how it's done. Like we we get told to be nice, and then we're told to be honest. And when if we tell, this food was not very good, to where we if we eat someone's food, and then we are scolded for not being nice and polite, saying the food was good. It's kind of very hard for a child to know that difference. And as we grow up, we maybe we learn how to balance the two, but it's not a given. And also we learn through our parents, you know, my I hear my parent lie on the phone and say, well, I am sick, so I'm not coming over today helping you with this. And we know that our parent is not sick. So we see those parents do those white lies, or and we learn that, oh, there are some things that are okay to lie about. And of course, that's not what the parent wanted us to learn, but that's still what we learn.
So lying is like a tool, like everything else in life, that you can use to hurt or you can use as a good thing.
Yeah, and when we look at it too, there's lots of games, lots of fun, exciting games where we're supposed to lie, or we're supposed to have like a poker face that we call it, something where we don't show any sign of that we have the best cards. So there are also lots of games that builds on who is the best liar. And then when the truth is unfolded, there's laughter, or there's like someone winning. So there's lots of charge around it.
But that's called a poker face. That's not lying, right? But it's
Well,
still the same action, kind of. But the
yeah, and you
context
might.
is within a game, right?
Yes, and when the context is also like when you're in the theater and you play the role of someone, that is some kind of making that up, making it up what this person believes in or knows, and it's the same kind of um, what do you call it? Like the capacity, the same capacities that the child develops as they're lying is also used for for an actor playing a role, playing another person than themselves.
Or like if you make a story or write like a story or a movie, that is also imaginary. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
To be
how do
able to
we?
dream that up is like it's a fantastic human thing that we can dream up, fantasies, truths that are on the side of our truth.
Yeah. So how do we kind of navigate this? Because now it's kind of a bit confusing. Like, so it's like a superpower to be able to be creative and use your imagination to kind of come up with novel ideas. And then it's at the same time, it's kind of bad if you use it to your own gain or to kind of manipulate people. So
Mhm.
is there some kind of how do you say, road signs to help navigate this within oneself? And if you're a parent, or like, do you have some wisdom
Yeah.
about how to navigate this terrain that seems to be a bit confusing?
Well, I think one of the biggest fears for a parent is that the child doesn't tell the truth in those moments when we really need to hear it. Like if they are in trouble at school or with their friends, or if someone is hurting them, or like we want the child to know that we can handle an inconvenient truth. And this is not something we just say. We can say, you can say everything. Well, it's up to us then. How do we communicate as parents or as adults, if we're teachers or grandparents or whatever around kids? How do we actually show up when there is shameful, threatening, fearful things that we get to hear about? And that's something that goes on every day, I'd say. Can we take it if someone comes out with a lie, a truth? So that is one thing, building trustful uh, connections.
So my ability to handle other people's truths is helping them to be more honest.
I would say so, yeah. I mean, if we look at it, we don't tell anyone. We don't tell you to just anyone something, but we kind of, if there is something that is shameful, inconvenient, we kind of look for who is it that we can trust, who can take this, who can carry this secret as long as I need it to be a secret, who can be with me even if it's dreadful what I've done, until we figured out how to best deal with the situation.
Hmm.
So it's communication has a lot to do with future lying and future truth, I'd say.
Yeah. So we get to lie in the bed that we kind of made or did not make. So it's not that
Lie or
continuum.
lie in bed.
Lie or lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What advice would you give if one is interested in developing this kind of connection that can kind of nurture honesty and so how should we treat each other? How should we communicate to create that kind of environment where we that 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 fosters honesty even it's when it's uncomfortable kind of.
Well, one is to remember the stuff we've already talked about when it comes to a younger person or a person that hasn't developed uh, perspective taking, to not be so harsh on them, but to be more curious about it. I remember our son when I first realized that he was probably lying. I tried different things, but one thing that I really enjoyed that I tried was I said, I'm gonna ask you to answer me something, but I'm not gonna want your answer until, an hour or so. And I want to know if you were just lying about, I cannot even remember what the content was, but I asked him if he lied about something he just said. And there's no hurry. Just think about if you want to tell me if you were lying or if it was the truth. And then I remember him coming after a bit, I don't know, maybe an hour, and saying, yeah, I was lying about that. And of course, I already was almost 100% that he was lying about it. But just to 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 start talking about that in that way, and then I could ask him, so what? Why were you lying? Well, I felt so uncomfortable that uh, that I was that the thing that happened, and then I've learned that it's not nice to lie, and then I didn't want to say I was lying, so I tried to hide it as long as I could. But now when you invited me to tell, yes, I was lying. So to make lying kind of an object, something we can deal with, where it's not automatically so charged. And in nonviolent communication, we sometimes mistake uh, the telling the truth for the need for truth. And then we can really get stuck.
Say more about that. What's the difference between telling the truth and the need for truth then?
Well, I would say when we say that we have a need for truth, I would say it's a need where we want to kind of be in the same world as the other person. We want to share, have a shared understanding. We want to know things so that we can feel safe. We want to build trust, and then with that, we want to tell the truth, and we also want to hear the truth. But still, hearing the truth or telling the truth is strategies. They are both strategies for us to have this sense of, I can rely on this. I can see now what you see. And then I can even, when I noticed when our son was young that he was lying, I could say my need for truth can still be met, because the my need for truth is met by realizing he's lying, by facing that, by not freaking out over that, but just by seeing that, that is what
Like
he's
almost
doing.
like assuming that we're not going to be uh, transparently honest like ever all the time, because we're
Yeah.
always kind of trying to, sometimes soothing other people, like, well, your food wasn't that bad, or it was good, and I think, oh, I'll never want to come to you and have food because, but I don't want to tell it to your face, so we kind of do these white lies. And sometimes we want to protect ourselves from getting into a bigger mess, so we might not admit some mistake or something. So if we just kind of, like you say, stay curious and assume that that's part of life,
Yeah.
navigating this, it's not black and white kind of. Is that a good rule of thumb?
Yeah, and as soon as we are guessing also that someone is lying to us, we can, instead of saying, "Well, you should be honest. That's how we should be. We should always be honest." To also sneak in a question there for ourselves: how come this person is not telling the truth? Are they is Do I have something to do with that? Am I creating trust and warmth in our connection? Or are they afraid of it because of something else in their lives? And can I address that somehow if I'm eager to have more of honesty in this relationship? Not to take it on, not to blame myself for it, but to be curious of how we can have more of it in our connection.
Yeah. It's funny because all the conversations in this podcast so far, but you and me, we've been having conversations for like 30 years, and we've been teaching nonviolent communication now, and all these things. It seems like being curious is one key. When we lose the curiosity, learning and discovery goes out the window, kind of.
Hmm.
And also our ability or inability to handle discomfort. Like when we're trying to get rid of discomfort, uh, something different also happens.
Hmm.
So how to stay curious and how to learn how to kind of be hungry without stuffing oneself immediately, to put it as a food metaphor.
Hmm.
Do you agree, and do you have something like some other piece in the puzzle? uh,
Yeah, I like your description of it. And another thing that I learned when I wrote this chapter in the book, uh, and at first I was suspicious about this research, but then I looked it up in different places, and it seems like the same. And I had to face that it was also about me, and it was that lies are really hard to catch. We cannot see if someone is lying, even if many of us think we can. Many of us think we are better about predicting a lie than anyone else. And
you
there has
mean that
been,
we could see that someone is lying on their face or something? What do you mean, like
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that we can. I saw
Or
that
on
the
the tone
person
of
was,
voice, or something like that?
or the way they move their bodies, they seem like they were restless, and of course that's a sign of that they were lying.
So
And
you're
they have
saying we
tested,
can't?
and no, then they have tested everything from, well, just parents, teachers, policemen, uh, well, different lawyers.
But
uh,
people who work in the customs, like at the airports, I think they
mhm.
should be. Isn't that so?
Well, that's the assumption. And then when you test them, they are no better than anyone else. And we have like a prediction rate around 55%. Like it could be either or.
It's
We could,
almost 50-50, you mean?
yeah. So it's very, very hard. And of course, when we know someone, we might see a pattern of how they behave in moments where we have a memory of them lying. So I might know how my own son looks or what he does when he lies, but never 100%. But so to remember that for me is one of those things. To not assume I know they're lying, to not assume I know they're telling the truth. Uh, but I need something more than just the tone of voice or the look in the eyes.
So
That is
I
one
know
thing.
I'm suspicious, that I can know, but if
Hmm.
my suspicion is correct or not,
Yeah,
that's a different
yeah.
story. But
I
it's
mean,
like almost like flipping a coin, 50-50.
yes, yeah,
But one's partner, one's family, one's neighbor, if you have track record and have some proof that they've been lying before, then you might be better than 50-50. Or is that what you...
yeah, yeah. And you know, to take off that burden for me at least, to take that burden off my shoulders that I am supposed to know if you're lying or not, is pretty good for the connection. It's pretty good for what you said before, but for the curiosity, is it right now? Am I getting the full truth here instead of assuming you're lying? Kind of just watching, being curious about what is that little restlessness that I see in your movement. What is that about?
So are you saying that if I'm curious, I might investigate through my curiosity more, but if I lose my curiosity because I know that you're lying, then I will not investigate more. So again, that curiosity thing is kind
Yeah,
of, ah,
yeah. And also something you pointed out earlier on, that it feels good to be in integrity. And the more we grow, the more I would say we grow into that integrity. We are not just interested in not lying because our mother said it's bad to lie. We are not just interested in lying because people will not like me if they hear that I'm lying. But actually, we are growing into, I want to stay as close to truth as possible. It's part of uh, what actually also calms our nervous system down. And you know, when you're carrying a lie for a long time, many people, uh, it's very clear we don't want to carry that lie around for that long or that deep lie. It's not so. So there's something self-regulating with that, and to trust that for me is also one thing in how to live with this.
is that's the saying, like that the truth will set you free. Like,
Yeah. And then when that very saying is done, used earlier on, before a person is actually grown into integrity, it becomes a demand, it becomes a judgment, it becomes like it's such a bad thing
food,
to be a liar.
food for the idea that I'm a bad person because yes, I do lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is a beautiful saying, and sometimes it's used as a weapon instead of an invitation for more curiosity, more love, more connection.
Hmm, cool. But do you agree? Would you agree that a lot of people like lying? They prefer lying. Like they want to, like, you're in the wardrobe or in the clothes store, and then it can be scary to be honest. Like, oh, that doesn't fit you. That sweater or dress or jeans, or your ass looks too big. Or so we don't want to hear that. We want to hear like, oh, I look really good. So in that sense, we kind of like people who lie to us because we feel good about it.
Yeah. But then if we see photos of ourselves and we don't like it at all, we might be really angry at that person. Why didn't you warn me? I look so fat in this, or I look old in this, or whatever we have as judgment. So then it might turn the other way around.
So
That
again, it's tricky business, this
yeah,
lying. Like
yeah.
sometimes people want it, sometimes they don't.
But of course, that's also a sense of what is lying. If it's just your opinion, you might state that. You might say, you don't, in my eyes, you look better in blue than in yellow. That could still be like something that we would call a truth, but it's an opinion. Uh, because just because I don't like it, it doesn't mean that you don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky place, but that's where this comes in. Like what actually serves us, what actually serves our communication.
Yeah. Not everyone's favorite color is blue.
No, but some has that as a favorite color.
Yes. All right. Cool. So thanks for this time. I'll keep on thinking about what's going to be the next topic for our next conversation.
Hmm.
And what else? See you. We don't say goodbye, but we say see you next time, right?
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us in this conversation with Liv Larsson. If you want to learn more about Liv's work, upcoming trainings, or dive deeper into nonviolent communication, you'll find her at www.friaraliv.com. You'll find links to Liv's books mentioned in this episode in the show notes, along with more information about our international mediation program and the Reimagine Communication program, perfect if you're looking to deepen your practice in mediation and integrate nonviolent communication more fully into your life. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious, stay connected,